So when I set off with the team, I was very clear. I was like, look, guys, we're going to build this company to a $50 million valuation. And then at some point, we're probably going to exit this, and you guys are all going to get some money. And then we'll move on to the next thing, if there is a next thing. And you guys hopefully will have learned a lot during the journey. And, hopefully you'll make a nice chunk of money at the very end as well to reward you for that.
So of all the things you do in life, hundreds of millions of things, why be an entrepreneur?
That's a great question. And some days I wish I wasn't. I think it's, coming back to, you asked me about adoption and whether I think my family has played a tremendously large impact on my life and has influenced and shaped the way I view the world. And so I think we have to kind of zoom out. So my father's background was very corporate. And when he was, I think in his 40s, decided to launch his own business. And he said, look, you're going to have a lot of freedoms in certain respects. You can make your own decisions. You don't need to report to the man. But at the same time, you're also going to be, it's going to be extremely stressful, strenuous. You're not going to have a life probably for a couple of years. But in the end, it's all about the journey. So if that is something that you're interested in and you want to live that journey of freedom and being able to kind of make your own decisions, then that's the life for you. And so I studied in the US specifically because in my mind, when I was like 16 or 17 or whatever, I was like, okay, I think one day I want to have my own business. And I want to go to the US because I want to learn this entrepreneurial culture. I want to see how other people are doing it. I've seen my parents do it. I want to learn from the best. And I want to be able to have that freedom one day myself as well. And, it's definitely been a roller coaster, but I think, we're trending now towards that direction. Next year, we're aiming to be properly profitable on an accounting basis. And I think that's when we're really going to achieve that freedom. And then really we do whatever we want.
I have a joke. I say before you become an entrepreneur, you should take some kind of mental health test.
Yes.
Because there has to be something off with you if you want to
It's true. It's true. I think, most entrepreneurs have a chip on their shoulder. Like there's something in their life. And I think for me, it's the fact that, I'm adopted. Technically, I come from nothing. And I think I want to prove to myself and the world that if you have the right environment, if you are quote unquote raised right, and you have, a good nurturing environment that can help you fulfill your potential, then a lot of things are possible. And I think that's also why I went into kind of education and training, because I feel like I want to be able to help others achieve similar things as well and not have to spend, abysmal sums of money in order to achieve that, hopefully.
So this might be a question more for your parents, but maybe you can answer so your adopted parents are French, you're Vietnamese. How do your parents, as far as balance, being French and also making sure you learn about your own culture, so to speak?
I think my parents have been very open-minded about that ever since from the start. I mean, to be candid, actually, I'm the one, well, they were doing a business in Vietnam, which it was more of a business decision than it was a kind of personal decision. So they set up here because the market was good, timing was good, etc. But it was actually more me who said, look, actually, you guys are launching this business. I'd love to be involved to see what it's like to grow business. It just so happened that it was in Vietnam at the time. And then I was like, okay, this is kind of I can kill two birds with one stone. I can kind of better understand where I come from. And at the same time, I can get great lessons in entrepreneurship and learn in a market that's growing very quickly. So it wasn't intentional. It was really more, okay, there's the benefit that I get to learn where I come from. I still don't feel like I am Vietnamese inside personally, from kind of these varied experiences. It's cliche, but I really do think in a way I am a citizen of the world. So yeah, that's really it.
And is there a thing, I don't know the term, is there a thing where if someone's Vietnamese, but they're born outside Vietnam, they come to Vietnam, they're kind of
yeah, there's a term, it's called being, my tones are probably gonna be terrible, it's being called Viet Kieu, which basically means usually that essentially you're a Vietnamese person who has spent extensive periods of time outside of Vietnam, whether that was kind of in your early life and you're born abroad and then you come back to Vietnam. So the definition is a little bit loose, at least from my understanding, but I don't think the Vietnamese would consider me Viet Kieu because I think I've spent most of my life abroad, just generally speaking. And I don't really have Vietnamese ties per se here. So they don't really view me as that.
And do like native Vietnamese like kind of look down on these big Viet Q?
Um, I think in the younger generation, not really. I think
Okay.
younger generation that tend to be a bit more liberal. I think maybe the older generation, I don't think there's like a stigma, but
Mm.
they view you as a slightly different person. Let's
Okay.
just put it
All
that
right.
way. I don't think it's about being good or bad. It's just like you're not quite Vietnamese,
Yeah.
but you are Vietnamese-ish.
Okay.
So we like that about you, but you're not exactly like one of us.
Like
That's kind of how
you're
they
not
view.
100% pure, like maybe like 82%.
Correct. You're kind of just this mixed bag. But we still like you because you're Vietnamese, but you're not exactly like us. So
Yeah.
that's kind of how they view it. But they don't view it through a lens of like good or bad. It's
Mm.
just more like, okay, you're just Asian Vietnamese culture is very, very much about putting people in boxes. So Vietnamese language is very hierarchical, for example. So, you have your uncle, but you have like an older uncle, younger uncle, whatever. So they use these descriptors to put you in boxes so that they can relate to who you are.
Mm.
So for them, it's like, okay, you are a Viet Q person. There's no judgment attached to that. It's just that that's what you are.